gonna rock! Hey, welcome to Rockapedia, everybody. I'm Music Man Mike. You got Dylan, the producer here, and straight out of Sweet Virginia, Gypsy Joe. How you doing?
Doing great. I have to say, I get a kick out of that introduction every time. It always makes me laugh.
Yeah, I'm glad we captured that. The first time we played it on the show, like the week later, when we decided to use it, he said, "I don't even remember doing that."
That's the highlight of our tenure doing this.
Yeah, that's what makes it so perfect, because you just did it. You just, you were bagging on us for talking about the weather for too long, so that's, we got in trouble. Well, hey.
What if we talk about sports? Would that be okay?
Yeah. I thought about that. I listened to this. I listened to this talk show here in town, Sports Talk Radio. I don't listen to a lot of music on the radio anymore, but this one station here in town, KTCK, The Ticket. Of course, they do a lot of Dallas Cowboys coverage, as you can imagine, but they also do a lot of other stuff. I mean, they talk a lot of music. They talk a lot of movies. They're not just sports. They're sports guys, but they talk about everything, which is pretty cool, because I get to listening to it sometimes, and there's some really good stories and some things I didn't know, and I learn a lot from those guys. And I think I've even carried some of it into the show here sometimes, because they brought something up that I'd forgotten about. But yeah, the sports thing, movies, food. We were talking with who was it who was here the other day? Oh, Jack was here the other day. So Jack's the other guy that works here in the studio. And so outside of Rockapedia, we also have the Shelly Brown show. She's the human resource director. She does a show kind of talking to the drivers about, different things, whether it's insurance, whether it's your time clock, your time card, on paycheck, all that kind of stuff. She covers that. So, for those of you watching Rockapedia and don't know a whole lot about it, I'll take a couple minutes here to kind of explain that we're live inside of a trucking company. So BCB Transport is Rick Larkin's trucking company, and he decided to have better communication with the drivers. And besides just sending emails, or they got the little ELD screens on the dash of their trucks, and the driver manager here in the building, or anybody can type out a message, something important or something they just need to know, and you can send it to one driver or all 200 drivers at once. There's buttons that tell you what you're doing. So that's a good way of communication. Always has been.
It comes up on their dashboard.
Yeah, it's just like while they're driving, it comes up as a beep. So it's like a big, big GPS thing.
Yeah.
It has GPS built into it, but it also keeps track of all the loads that they ran, the cities they're picking up and delivering into. I mean, it breaks everything down on there. So when they're driving, it comes across the beep, 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 and they know that they've got a message in there. Don't necessarily want them to reach over and try to read it while they're driving. We discourage that, but but they know when they stop and get fuel or whatever they're stopping for. Next time they get to a stop and put it in park, they check that message to see what it was. Now, if it's important, it's something they need to know right away, right now, then that's a phone call. That warrants a phone call, and most of the drivers wear a headset. They can answer it just by pushing the button on their headset. Now they're talking to the driver manager about, hey, turn around and go back. You forgot something, and instead of waiting 100 miles down the road and reading that message. So there's different ways to communicate, and one of the ways that Rick thought about was this show right here. Now, not Rockapedia necessarily, but the BCB Live, and then the Safety Struck was the name of the show that we did every morning at 7:15. After a while, it turned from Spotify, and I guess this kind of links into what I was going to tell you. Everybody out there listening to Rockapedia or watching Rockapedia now, is that when we first started, and Joe would come on every once in a while, we were a Spotify show. So that was the only way that you could listen to Rockapedia. You could also listen to BCB Live that way. And then Rick decided to go big with the YouTube. So we went to the YouTube, and now we got the cameras in the studio. We got the lights. We got a full-time producer on hand. He's been full-time since it was Spotify, but he's really got his hands full now. And the other shows I'm talking about, so like Shelly's Human Resource Show, the afternoon show that goes over weather and traffic and things like that. It's all meant for the drivers. And this show right here is the same thing. It's meant to go out to the drivers, just something to watch for 30 minutes to keep them entertained while they're out there on the road. They don't interact on this show as much. There may be times in the future where we do something like that and we take driver calls and we get them more involved in it. But right now, the way that we interact with them is a couple of ways. On Facebook, there's Safety Struck, the page, the Facebook page. That's a good way for them to communicate with me. I can communicate with them. And then I did set up recently, about a month ago, I set up the BCB Live Rockapedia page. So now we've got our own page, and I'm putting shows up one at a time. So not the Spotify shows I didn't post, but from the very first show that we ever did live on the TV, on the studio, I put that on there. So I started with that, and I'm just kind of putting a little few things here and there for them to do, one show at a time. We're not even caught up yet on there because I'm not trying to overload it all at once. I'm putting a few shows on here and there, and that's it. But also some of the stuff that I do on my own Facebook page, like on this day in 1960, whatever, Mick and Keith met for the first time, or actually when they were kids, when they're 40s, whatever it was. There's that happened the other day, and I was going to post it on my Facebook, like back in, I said,
back in the 40s when they were like 35 years old.
I was trying to do the math in my head. But you remember that infamous story, right, of them meeting on the train, and they had some records or something like that. Well, there's actually a picture of that. It's a black and white picture, obviously, and it was on Facebook the other day, and some lady posted it, and she shared on this day, which was probably 2 weeks ago, but it's on the Rockapedia page. On this day is when they met, and they knew each other as kids, right? But then they didn't meet up again until they were teenagers. Isn't that the case?
Yeah, and Mick Jagger had like some blues albums, some records that he had gotten. And of course, Keith, being Keith, wanted to know what he had, where he got them, all that good stuff.
Yep. And so from there, the history was made, but it was a pretty neat picture. And normally I would put that on my Facebook page, my personal page. And I thought, this would be perfect for Rockapedia. I need to start taking that music stuff that I always post for people to see and put it on there. That way I'm sharing it with the viewers. I'm sharing it with, the people that care, hopefully. So I posted a couple of those things on there. But, yeah, trying to get the show on there, trying to get it up to date. Recently posted the one with the Michael Jerome show is on there. The Michael Lacey show is on there. The John Cruz show is on there. I don't think we've got the Paul Fig show on there yet. It's not. We're playing catch up on that now. Paul's done it twice. He did the Spotify version and he did the TV version. So there is a Spotify version out there with the Paul.
Oh, that's right. The Spotify version he was on. I forgot about that.
Yeah, that's still there. And that was just you and him.
Yeah.
Because I listened.
Wow, I forgot about that.
When Paul and I did the TV version a couple weeks ago, or a few weeks ago, whatever it was. I went back and listened to yours because I wanted to see what all you guys touched on before I had that conversation with Paul, and we're just like redoing the whole show. So I try to keep it something different. So I did listen to that the other day. But yeah, there's quite a few shows on Spotify actually. The one with Uncle David, where we talked to Uncle David, is on there. There's all kinds of stuff like that. So talking about them, talking about the guests and the show and all that stuff, brings me back to future guests. So today we're not having a guest. Today we're just going to kind of talk about what I just talked about. What is Rockapedia? Why are we here? What do we do? What's the future bring? We don't even know. I can't even get on here at 10 o'clock in the morning on time. How do I know what's going to happen next month or next year?
Especially when you send me a text saying, what are we going to talk about 5 minutes until the show starts?
Hey, to be fair, I don't think any of us knew what we were going to talk about, but that's okay. I will say, this past weekend, the return of live music has kind of been going around. I know Joe's got some stuff with that he's been working on too. But I've been trying to go to more concerts, more shows. I'm actually going to 2 this weekend, and last weekend I went and saw a guy who's been kind of up and coming in the, I guess, probably indie, but his name's Kevin Morby, and the guy has a voice that kind of reminds me of Bob Dylan, right? So I was skeptical of the guy at first, but my girlfriend's really into him. So we went and saw him in Dallas this past weekend, and I was blown away. I thought it was way better than I thought it was going to be. I actually have a little video, not from the concert, but just of him playing live. If you guys want to check that out, we can kind of talk a little bit about that if you would like, if we're looking for a topic here.
What was his name again?
His name is Kevin Morby.
If your girlfriend's into it, let's check it out.
All right. Oh, that's why, huh? Sandy's down the hall.
She talked you into going to the show.
Me into going to the show. That. You're right, and it was good. It was good. It was real good. So, all right, we'll check it out.
my heart beating. Oh, let's go downtown.
Yeah, so you get the point of it after a few rounds around it, but
that was cool. So without the visual part of it, just listen to the music, and maybe even before he started singing. Joe, what did you think about the music part?
I liked it. It kind of had some Grateful Dead guitar sounding stuff, which I'm not a fan of Dead, but I did like what he was doing with that. I was just reading Spotify stuff as it was on. He's got his latest singles called Virginia Beach, which I've been to a couple of times out here. So I looked to see if he had any connections with Virginia, and it doesn't look like he does. He's from Kansas City, which was kind of cool.
Huh. Well, it reminded me. It reminded me of Seattle in the sense of like a rainy, cool song, kind of like maybe a Mother Love Bone breakdown or something like that.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's what I kind of heard. And then maybe some Walking Papers. I mean, those guys. There's definitely bands out there that do that kind of stuff. I mean, they do a little bit of everything. But I could definitely hear that as one of those genre type deals.
Speaking of Walking Papers, Jeff Angel is not dead.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, I read somewhere that he had died, and then I was looking up the Jerry Cantrell stuff. And Duff McKagan was talking about Jeff Angel. Not dead. He's alive.
I think Duff played on the first album, Walking Papers, but I think now he's out of that project, and Jeff Angel's doing it with probably some of the same guys. I don't know whoever's playing bass, but you can't expect Duff to stay around forever.
No, he's got stuff to do.
He's a busy guy. He recently did something else. What did I see him do? Was he doing Well, I know he did the Shooter Jennings thing, and then he was on something else, though. Dang it.
I mean, he was just on the new Jerry Cantrell album that comes out on Friday.
That's what it was. Exactly what it was. He
plays on like six songs on that album.
He was in the studio.
And I saw a picture yesterday on Instagram that Paul Figueroa had taken. Big took of Jerry Cantrell and Duff McKagan together.
I think. Was it black and white?
No. It was them in the studio.
This one I saw was black and white, and it was Duff and Jerry, and I think and a bass player or somebody, I don't know who, I didn't recognize the guy. There's three of them in the studio with headphones on, and they were singing, so they were doing backup vocals. But also on the Instagram, it's Paul's, I think Paul or Jerry's, either one. There's a video of them messing around in the studio. So Paul's at the board.
I saw that.
And Jerry's behind him. So I was telling Dylan about this morning. There's like little 10-second videos that they're posting, just having a good time in the studio and joking around with each other.
Yeah. So Paul's he's at the console. Jerry Cantrell's behind him noodling around on the guitar, and he comes up with this little like single string riff that he's doing. And Paul's like, "What is that?" He's like, "That's your theme song." And he like, so now Paul Fig has a theme song written by Jerry Cantrell.
That was the Paul Vig theme song.
Yeah.
There was one. Did you see the video where there's a cat in the vocal booth?
No, I didn't see that one.
So Jerry must have a cat. Somebody has a cat. Anyway, he's in there recording vocals. Well, he's got the headphones on. So when Paul says go, or tape's rolling, or starts it, or whatever he starts, and Jerry's ready to start, is doing his oohs and ahs. He's doing like background oohs and ahs. And he gets ready to start. As soon as he puts the headphones on and the music starts, Jerry can't hear because he got the headphones on. The cat goes, meow, and then he starts singing. And they go through like 10 seconds of that, and he cuts it off, and Jerry goes, "How'd that sound?" He goes, "Yeah, it was good except for the beginning. You got the cat sound." He goes, "Oh, you kidding me? No, let's do it again." They put the headphones on and start the music.
Put the cat this time.
Now they're about 3/4 of the way through, and you're, I don't know how they finally decided to take the cat out of the studio, but I saw 2 messed up takes thanks to the cat in the studio. So I've never heard of that before, but maybe it's a thing now. I don't know. I can remember we used to wear jewelry and stuff in the studio, and the guy would say, "You're gonna have to do something with those bracelets, sir."
They're shaking,
yeah,
like maracas or
Can I offer
something.
you some duct tape, please?
Just take your risks.
So all that stuff that's on there, Instagram and everywhere else that we're seeing it, I mean, that's just, it's fun, and those guys are great friends, and you can tell they are, and they just have a good time in the studio. They work hard, and they play hard, but it's all promo stuff. It does help push the new album that comes out. What'd you say, next week, Joe?
No, it comes out this Friday.
This Friday. Yeah, and the album is called Brighten.
Yeah.
Which I'm not sure where that name comes from. I can tell you where Rainier Fog comes from, but I'm not sure what Brighton is. I know there's a Brighton, Colorado. I don't know.
I think it's more in the word Brighton, ending with the N, as in Brighton.
Oh, okay. I didn't. I wrote
Brighten the light.
I wrote it down.
That kind of thing.
Let me correct my notes here. Brighton.
And of course, every song there is like total solemn and like sad, and it's great. It's just total. It's still grunge. Like you listen. I've heard two songs off that album now. That he released as singles, and they just you can tell Jerry Cantrell was a songwriter in Alice in Chains. Like that sound is still there, and his voice, which was always not always, but mostly backing vocals in Alice in Chains, you just hear all of that. It's every song I've heard on this so far has been great. So I can't wait for the album to come out.
Yeah, well, Paul.
Plus, knowing Paul, helped produce it kind of.
Definitely.
And it makes it more enthusiastic for me.
You said it's got 6 songs on it?
No, it's 6 that Duff are on.
Oh,
it's like 5 or 6 that Duff and Kagan are on.
Okay, it's a full album then. That's cool. Yeah, Paul and I talked about that last time he was on here. I didn't even know that Jerry did vocals until I was really paying attention to the Facelift one time, and I thought, that kind of sounds a little bit different. They almost sound alike. Him and Lane sound very much alike. Yeah. So, he can pull off a lot of stuff, and still, like you said, the guitar style, the songwriting style, all that stuff. It's definitely Alice in Chains. There's no mistaking that. Speaking of Alice in Chains and Duff McKagan, how about them Saints last night?
Whew. Thought they were going to blow that one.
The 12th man has left the building.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't.
Are we talking I don't know. I want to rock.
Yes. Talk about sports, man.
Yeah.
How about the Suns beating the Lakers the other night? That was convincing.
Which one?
The Suns beating the Lakers.
Oh, you know what? I haven't even started basketball season yet.
They were up by 30 points at one point. They were killing them. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it should be interesting. And then, here, we'll just keep talking about sports for a minute. Jason Kidd is the new coach here at Dallas, and so that's off to a roaring start. Everybody's got an opinion. I only wish well for people. I don't care if you're Tom Brady or you're Jason Kidd. I wish the best for you, and all the stuff he's done in the past and made enemies and all that kind of stuff. He's got a pretty good start fresh chance here with Dirk Nowitzki, with Mark Cuban offering him the position. I mean, let's see what happens with that deal. But yeah, I mean, when Joe and I talk about basketball, we're talking about Phoenix because we both lived there. We're fans. Jason Kidd was a Phoenix Sun at one time.
Yep.
When I talk about New Orleans and Seattle, it ties into Duff McKagan because he's a big Seattle Seahawks fan, as of most of the guys up there are. They played in Seattle last night, and they, like you said, by the skin of their teeth, Saints pulled off a win last night. But yeah, the 12th man has not been effective in the game for the Seahawks lately. It just hasn't been there.
Yeah, and I think the Seahawks not having their quarterback in there, kind of helped the Saints win that game. Yeah. Jameis Winston is not a very good quarterback.
I'll tell you what, though, he did one thing last night that he hasn't done. Every week I watch him, I get angry, I get mad, I get upset, and why are they putting him back in? Why are they putting him back in? Leave Hill out there. Well, Hill's out obviously with concussion issue, but Jameis didn't make me as mad last night as he always does. I was a little more even keeled last night.
He did throw an interception or fumble the ball.
He seemed like he was taking control.
Yeah, he did a little better.
So when
it's still
when we talk about football on Rockapedia, we also talk about the Cowboys because Joe and Rick are big Cowboys fans. I live here now, so I know just as much about them as anybody else because you have to. You're just bombarded by it. But yeah, that was cool last night, watching the Saints and just see what's going to happen in the future with them. And good luck to the Seahawks. In COVID news, We lost somebody recently in the rock world, and it's actually the Kiss world. Francis Stuber was Paul Stanley's personal guitar tech, I think for the last 10 to 15 years, something like that.
He's been like 15 years.
Yeah, but before that, he was still with them. He's been around for a long time, and he just kind of worked his way into that position. And I don't know how you get that. He obviously knew something about guitars and worked his way in. But at one time, he was just kind of more or less a roadie, maybe a head roadie or something like that. And he's the one for years and years. I don't know when it stopped, but he's the one that you would hear coming over the microphone saying, "You wanted the best, you got the best. The hottest band in the world, Kiss." That was Francis. We heard Francis every Kiss show, but you didn't know.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know that part. That's pretty awesome.
I read that on I think Paul's Instagram page. He put a picture on there and told a little story. But yeah, they were like best friends, and Francis and him were buddy, and he'd always refer to him as boss. "Hey, boss, what's going on? What you need, boss? What are we doing today, boss?"
Yeah, COVID, it ran pretty rough in the Kiss army there for a minute because Paul had it first, and then Gene got it, so they had to cancel some shows. And unfortunately, this happened, and I hope that everyone out there is like trying to stay safe during all these shows and stuff because it's still there and it can still hurt people. And I don't know, man. I just hope everyone plays it safe.
Yeah, I mean, everybody wants to get back to normal as soon as possible, whether it's concerts, restaurants, bars, whatever it was, sporting events, all that stuff. Everybody wants to get back to normal, and I think we may have jumped into it too soon. I don't know. I just think we did. I think that we decided to, lift the Band-Aid, everybody go back. Kids are in school now. Kids are going to high school, junior high, and it's happening there. There's parents fighting about it. You're not going to make my kid wear a mask. Or, yes, you have to wear a mask. And, it's just there's so many politics involved in the whole thing. But as far as the music business and what it's done there, for Gene and Paul to pull out of it, that's awesome. For Francis to lose his life over it, just terrible. We've lost a lot of people. We lost a lot of people to it, and it's been going on for a long time. That friend of mine that passed away in Seattle. James Christians, he's from Wichita. He played in a local band there alongside me many nights, and he's the first one. This is before we didn't even know what COVID was, and it happened, and he passed away. And at the same week that James passed away, he just got back from Florida on an airplane, got back to Seattle, got sick, went to the hospital. He was there for a week and a half. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with him, and then he's gone. And then that same week they start talking about, "Oh, be careful. There's a disease out there called COVID, and here's what it does to you, and here's how you catch it." And it's like, man, I wonder if that's what James had. And then sure enough, his wife, his widow, confirmed that's what it was, COVID. And it was probably one of the first cases in Seattle. That's why they didn't know how to treat it, didn't know how to take care of him. They did the best they could, the ventilator, I'm assuming, and all that stuff. But after a week and a half, 2 weeks in the hospital, he couldn't take it no more. So that's
which is weird because I remember one of the first cases in America being in Seattle. So he was probably one of the first.
Yeah, it's another friend of mine, Jeff Peterson's brother, Dan. He got deathly ill probably about a year before COVID, 6 months to a year before COVID in Las Vegas, and same thing. Checked into the hospital, was there for about a week, had breathing problems, all kinds of stuff was going on with him. And,
I remember that.
Yeah, then he got out. He got better. He got out. And then 6 months later, when James' thing happened, and then now we're full blown into this. And Dan posts something on Facebook that says, "I think I had COVID. I think I had COVID like 9 months ago," which makes sense. And I think maybe a lot of people did. It just didn't know what it was. It probably started earlier than we think, but we went from sports to COVID talk. That's how the show's going today.
But everyone we're talking about is musicians.
I know. I try to throw that in there every once in a while if you didn't notice. Hey, so let's talk about this benefit rock show you put together, Joe.
So I volunteer for a group that does harm reduction out here in Richmond, which is like supplying safe use supplies for. It's generally people who are in a bad place as far as housing goes. So they don't have access to clean needles, pipes, and things like that. So, and we have clothing, and we give them food. So we do this by ourselves. We're not funded by the state. We don't have any ties with the state. So we don't ask for anyone's name, phone numbers, or any of that information. We just give them things they need because they need it. So financially, we're always in a bind. So we decided to put a show on at a place out here called Fuzzy Cactus. So I have a lot of friends in bands, so I got two of the bands together. We're still working on the third one. And we got a date, November 12th. So if anyone out there is in Richmond, Virginia on the 12th of November, come to the shows for a good cause, $10. You have to have your COVID vaccination card to get in to make it a little safer for everybody. We're going to be selling shirts and just we have coffee cups and things like that with our logo on it. So so I'm pretty excited about it. Everything came together. I had a lot of help from a lot of friends. One of the guys in one of the bands was like, he really helped me out, man. He hooked it up big time because I was having a hard time for me. He's like, dude, I got this. And everyone's really responsive. Like, all the bands really want to do it. Like, he was like, yeah, let's do this. And like, he pretty much put it together more than I did. So yeah, it was really cool, and I'm really excited about it.
So how many bands are playing?
3. It's going to be 3 bands. Unfortunately, because of the neighborhood they're in, the music has to stop at midnight. So that's the reason we can only have 3 bands. I want to get 4 or 5, but they can't go any later than that. I don't want to start too early because no one's going to show up early.
Right. Well, that'd be a perfect show for me because I don't last past midnight anymore.
Well, the young kids do.
I'm done.
The kids these days, they go all night.
Well, and like you said, the one guy in the band that helped you out a lot, I mean, that's kind of similar to what Dylan and I did this weekend. So Rick had a get-together this weekend, and we hired a good friend of mine, Joe Hagan. Joe does a lot of solo shows. Oh, actually, he was doing a duo act until recently. I mean, I'm talking about very recently. But he was doing duo act, 2 guitars. I think Joe's acoustic and the other guy's electric. And then he's done it before with a bass player and a drummer, kind of just a quiet little room. He's done several different things. But he's been doing this for probably 20-some years. It's actually how he met his wife. So Joe's married to Craig Sweden's sister, Penny.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so Joe and Penny have 2 kids together. And that's how they met. He put an ad in the paper, kind of like this Kiss story. Or Motley Crue, rude, loud, aggressive guitar player. But he put something about
looking for a wife.
Yeah, looking for a wife. And this ad's going to trick you into thinking, I want you to be a singer. But really, it's just, so that was his come on thing. But yeah, Penny answered the ad, and they started singing. They called themselves Dick and Jane. And they went out and did songs every night, a male-female mixer. And it went over real well. And then eventually got to the point where they got married and had kids, and they stopped, and Joe would do solo stuff. But long story short, me and Dylan did some roadie work this weekend, so I had to go to Joe's house and pick him up. Joe's legally blind, so he don't drive. So I picked Joe up, picked up the equipment, took it out to Rick's house, and we got it all set up and ready to go. We sound checked Thursday night, and then on Friday, he came and did the show. I went and picked him up as well, brought him to the house. We did the show, and man, we were that close to getting Rick to sing a song. We had him picked out. I mean, if Joe could expand his repertoire a little bit, we would have had him, because Rick brought up ideas like Just a Gigolo. I said, you're going to sing Just a Gigolo? Joe goes, I don't know that song. Oh, let's think of another one. And Rick would come up with some, now he was getting silly. He was getting Careless Whisper and things like that.
He could have done I Want to Rock by Twisted Sister.
There you go. You could have just done that part. I'll do the rest of it. He just steps in and does I Want to Rock. Yeah, but we couldn't come up with a song. He had a couple of them, but I don't think he had enough drinks in him to step up to the mic and just hit it hard. But anyway, it was a good night. So after that night, I take Joe home because I got a meeting to go to the following morning, Saturday morning. It's a whole weekend thing that Rick put together. Friday was the mixer at his house with Joe. Saturday was an all-day meeting. And he flew a bunch of people in from out of town to come attend the thing. They stayed at a hotel down the street Thursday and Friday night. But went to the meeting, and I called Dylan. I said, hey, Joe's doing a gig Saturday night. Is there any way you can come and pick his stuff up and take it to him? He goes, yeah, I can do that. Well, what I failed to tell Dylan was that the PA system is 2 giant speakers about this big, and they're not going to fit in your car. So he went and he picked up everything there was to pick up, broke everything down, put everything in his car, and took off. And he texted me, he said, I couldn't fit the PA speakers in. So I had to go over there and pick up the PA speakers. But I was fine. It gave me an excuse to leave the meeting early, and it got Joe his equipment so he could do the show that night. But in the process as well, you get to introduce these 2 guys together. So Joe and Dylan had a talk Saturday when he came over to the house, and Dylan did him a favor by hooking everything up and labeling things to make it easy for him to just flip it on and just go for it instead of having to figure out what goes where. So color coordinated, right, Dylan? Or
Yeah, I have it labeled so that he can read where to put in certain inputs and things like that to make sure there's no feedback. So it wasn't too hard. It took about 15 minutes to kind of get everything going and labeled and everything.
Big deal to him because he kind of stresses out over that stuff because he wants people around him that are going to help and not to feel sorry for him, but to help him and really really care about what he's doing. And the music and the show and everything. And start time is as important to us, me and Dylan, and whoever else is helping him, as it is to Joe, and it really is. Joe takes it very professionally, and we have a lot of fun whenever we get together. I got up and did my usual. We do every time we get together. I do dead flowers with him, so we got up and did dead flowers. But he played for quite a while, and I think Rick even asked him to keep on playing after his 2 hours and play a little bit longer. But yeah, it's like you were saying with the guy up there in Richmond to help you with the thing. I mean, that's kind of what we do in the music community. That's what we do. That's what us guys do. The guys that keep it real.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because like I moved here in 2018, but after like a year and a half of being here, COVID hits. I'm stuck in this house for like a year. I lived in this neighborhood for like a year and I haven't been anywhere in the neighborhood. And I remember the first day I finally went out and then like started exploring the neighborhood and like meeting these people, and they're all like, I've never seen you around. I'm like, yeah, I haven't been able to get out of the house since I moved in. Like, so yeah, it's been weird. Like, I know a lot of people, but mostly through work and stuff like that. So like, it was hard for me to like get things organized because I'm not from here. And even though it seems like I've been here for 3 years, I really feel like I've been here for a year and a half. So he really helped me like coordinate things and like, put me in touch with the right people and all that stuff. So that was a big giant help for me.
Yeah, that was cool. And Dylan and Joe are talking about maybe doing some shows together. So Joe's got a once a month gig. He signed up with these people to do the duo, and then the other guy dropped out on him. So they're going to talk about, at least Dylan's starting to help out, setting his stuff up maybe once a month at that particular location, because he plays every weekend somewhere, just about every weekend. And then maybe eventually they could work their way into sitting together and playing a couple songs, which would be really cool. That's what I told Joe. I said I encourage you to meet Dylan because he's really into it. He's open-minded. You'll like him. And then it's just sure enough, when I went over to Joe's house on Saturday to drop the stuff off, he said the same thing. He said, "Tell Dylan thank you. Tell your brother thank you. I appreciate you. All the stuff. We had a great weekend." So. Yeah.
So Dylan, do you think that musically you guys can like kind of play the same kind of music together? Or?
Probably.
I mean, I don't know what kind of music Joe plays, but I know what you're into.
Yeah, I don't know what Joe's into, but I mean, I'll play whatever I'm handed. I just would need a little bit of time to Sit with it and.
Joe's got an iPad on his microphone stand that he uses, and he scrolls through it to find songs because he doesn't have a set list so much. He kind of does in his head, but he's got all the songs on here so he don't forget anything, leave anything out, and he'll scroll through there. He's probably got 250 songs on there. I'm talking everything from the Rolling Stones to Willie Nelson, because that's his favorite guy in the world. He does a lot of like some of this local country rock. They got Stoney LaRue. He does a lot of Tom Petty, John Cougar. I mean, he actually does Black by Pearl Jam.
Oh.
He does a pretty good job. He does a pretty good job of it too. I told him, I said, I want to sing that one night with you. He said, yeah, anytime, man. I said, well, I'm not ready for it yet. I've practiced.
I'm not drunk enough for it yet.
I've rehearsed in the car several times. I know I'm not ready, but I used to be able to pull it off. I can't no more, but I want to do that. That's just an awesome song. But then again, I thought about it. It's also kind of a downer. So if you're nightclub somewhere.
It's a very emotional song.
Yeah, it's not really an upbeat. I can't play the tambourine to it. I might not do it.
Shakes of empty canvas on the sheets of gray.
So, hey, on that note, let's leave you with one more thing. Next week is the Rolling Stones here at the Cotton Bowl in Dallas. And I did,
Nice to go.
I did finally get my refund back. No, I asked for a refund.
Oh, good for you.
Because I didn't know what they were doing.
R.I.P.
And it's on a Tuesday. Well, when I was going in the first place, it was on a Friday or Saturday. Now it's on a Tuesday. And the Cotton Bowl is nowhere close to here. It's a long ways away. So I'm not going there on a Tuesday night. I just told myself, just give my money back. I'm good. I wish I had.
The Cotton Bowl where we saw Monsters of Rock.
Yes.
Like a big Texas guy out there.
Yep.
Giant Texas.
Oh yeah,
man.
Big Tex.
Big Tex.
Yep.
Yeah, you can ask Jake.
Big, is that name? Big Tex.
Big Tex. Yeah, he's out there every year for the fair. Yeah, so this is a different Big Tex. So the Big Tex you remember burned down about 7-8 years ago. We got a new Big Tex now.
Someone burnt it down?
I don't know what happened. I think it was an electrical issue. I don't think somebody purposely would do that. Be kicked out of the country if you burn.
Sounds like Antifa to me.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us on Rockapedia. We are on BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Adios to Gypsy Joe and Dylan, the producer, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you very much.